In typical TFL fashion, today's video went not at all as planned. And let me show you how our least reliable vehicle, theoretically and according to the internet, ended up saving the day. We are tasked with figuring out how good is this Willys MB Army Jeep in the cold and in the snow. And that's gonna start with us getting it started. To get into the Jeep, I have to take off my safety belt, and then at the moment, I'm sliding onto the seat first so I can get the snow off of my boots. But then I gotta swing my legs in, which is a little difficult because it's a very narrow opening getting into the Jeep. But now that I'm in, I wanna test out how difficult it's gonna be to get this fired up, because it's below freezing right now, and we push this out of the garage so it is yet to fire up. So getting started up here, I'm gonna give us a little extra throttle there to bring the RPM up, a little bit of choke, flip the key on, but turning the key doesn't actually get you fired up. What does is a little switch here on the floor, and I kid you not, that was actually how easily this fired up. Look at that. That's pretty impressive. These Go Devil 4-cylinders are renowned for their durability and their reliability.
To start things off, I am going to see if we can even go uphill in two-wheel drive at all. The tires on this old Army Jeep are very old school. They're very true to what these would have been riding on back in the 40s. This is a 1945 Willys MB, but they're not that great in the snow. They've got no sipes. So we'll see if I can even get up this hill at all in two-wheel drive. So far, we're going. These tires are pretty narrow, so they do kind of dig down to the soft ground underneath rather than floating on top of the snow as much. And this Jeep is so light. We got that far up the hill in two-wheel drive. Let's see, maybe I can carry a little more momentum. I'm not quite ready to switch out of two-wheel drive yet, because these Jeeps are a lot of fun in two-wheel drive. I grew up with a CJ2 on the dirt, and I'll tell you what, sliding one of these little things around is quite a bit of fun. The steering is really slow, so it's not quite a rally car, and I'll try not to tear Tommy's on too bad, but in two-wheel drive, you can get around. It's maybe not recommended. Then again, it's not necessary, because this is the original 4x4, the most iconic 4x4 maybe of all time, I would argue. So why not use four-wheel drive? And look at us now, four-wheel drive, low range. Not that we need low range right now, but then we can truck right past the tire marks that we made in two-wheel drive. And this hill, it's not a very steep hill, but it's no problem for the Willys MB. This is such a good vehicle. I absolutely love these Jeeps. I grew up driving them, actually. I grew up in a CJ2, and they are very impressive. They're impressive off-road, especially given how old they are, and they're a lot of fun to drive. But what I think we need to do is get this on some slightly more challenging terrain and see if in the snow it can still handle that. And if it'll continue to run. Because it smells very gassy.
Ugh. We're steaming a little bit here. Oh, well, we're puking fuel all over the place. This comes from the fun era when your intake manifold and your exhaust manifold shared real estate. So there they are right next to each other. And we're dumping gas all over the place, which, to be honest, is a little bit of a fire hazard, if not a lot of a fire hazard. And it looks like the fuel is coming all the way from the top of the carb here. We haven't had this issue that I know of in the past. So real quick, I don't want to run it very much, but I do want to run it for a second and poke my head in here just to see while the fuel pump is actually sending fuel to the carb, where exactly it's coming from, because it seems like fuel is coming out pretty aggressively. Do we have a fire extinguisher? Do you know? Just as a precaution. Let me poke my head in the garage real quick. There we go, Tommy. He is a well-prepared classic car enthusiast. All right. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's okay. That's serious. Before we give up completely, I'm gonna try an old school trick with carburetors in case the float on this carb is stuck. Let's see if a couple taps from whatever angles I can get at help us out. Yeah. Do it again. Oh, no, stop. Yep. So it seems like the fuel is coming from the top of the carb here. It doesn't really look like it's coming from this fuel line. So I think we're gonna have to pull the carb off. Well, despite our extensive toolkit, this looks like more than I want to get into in the next couple minutes here, but we do really have good snow at the ranch. So I'd hate to waste it, and oddly enough, I would really wager that this is one of the most durable and reliable vehicles that we have because of its rugged simplicity. There's not a lot to go wrong on this vehicle, but it is 80 years old, and in that time frame, something will every now and then go wrong. Today is one of those moments. However, we also have one of the most unreliable vehicles, especially according to the internet, ever produced right over there, and it's also four-wheel drive. And to take advantage of these snowy conditions, why don't I grab this, take it with us, and see if our old Land Rover can let us have some fun in the snow. This little red dumpling is our P38 Range Rover. These are not very well regarded as far as reliability is concerned, hence why I brought this along. But if this could start up and do a little bit of driving, I would be not only impressed, but very excited, because then that means that I get to play around in the snow. Fingers crossed. These airplane going down sounds don't give me a ton of confidence, but that does. I think we might be in business. I wonder if our heated windshield works. I set the defroster on while we went inside to go push the Jeep back in, and look at that. Whether it was our heated windshield or our defroster, at least one of them worked. So there we go. Easy, the Range Rover proving as luxurious as its name suggests. You have to take great care when you're brushing this. You'd hate to scuff the paint. Yeah, that's good.
I'm actually going to go into low range here on the P38 because, aha, there we go. Just took a little bit of fuss. Come on, you can do this. Go into low range. Well, it doesn't like it, but we're in low range. Aha! There we go. Okay, it has now accepted the fact that we're in low range. I'm gonna go into low range here on the P38 because typically the traction control programming on these is more aggressive in its low range function, and let's see if I can possibly make it up this steep hill. My confidence in that is not, well, maybe. Haha! Haha! Victorious, the Range Rover. These traction control systems actually work okay. They're not bad. Look, this P38 Range Rover is, objectively speaking, it's not a very good vehicle, but it's the vehicle that we have, that right now is working. And that counts for something. These old Range Rovers, oh man, I wasn't trying to turn this into another old cheap Land Rover commercial, as Tommy and I are kind of prone to doing, but when they work, these old Land Rovers are pretty awesome, and it's pretty difficult to get an old Land Rover, an old Range Rover that's working perfectly, but one that works well enough for you to get where you're going. That's pretty easy to find. And I think that this is one of those. And it's pretty comfortable too. I've got heat going on right now. My heated seat doesn't work, but can't have it all. I'm about to drive down this hill. It's not crazy steep, but this Range Rover doesn't like to keep all of its brake fluid in the brakes. So I'm gonna put on my seatbelt, even though we're just here at the ranch doing pretty low speeds, because I'm not exactly sure how this is gonna turn out. But this Range Rover does have a pretty smart ABS system, so even on this steep snowy hill and on pretty old tires, I can actually come to a stop pretty effectively. That's awesome. This Range Rover is not a good example of any Range Rover. It's not even a good example of a P38, but even so, it's still capable of some pretty impressive things. And we've still got a big V8, which is always fun. I'm just kind of going wherever the snow makes me go. But let's see real quick if it can actually get us back up this hill, because if it can, then I might actually go deeper down into the pit and see if it's even capable of doing some of our off-road obstacles in there. Now, it doesn't look like it on camera, but part of this hill gets decently steep. I've gotten stuck on this hill a couple times in other four-wheel drives. There's not an insane amount of snow on the ground right now, but that's not a bad performance here from the P38. I think we can even push this a little bit harder. Let's see if we can do some obstacles down in the pit. Now we are approaching the pit, and I'm gonna start by going down the logs, which is not really a difficult test of anything in particular, but it is kind of an entertaining path for me to take to get over to the trenches, which are completely snow covered. The trenches are these alternating holes dug in the ground to test both articulation and traction. It's already a pretty difficult test for a lot of 4x4s, even in dry, perfect conditions, which today is not. So I don't really expect this P38 to be able to go up the trenches in this deep snow, but if it does, then this will be a little bit of a commercial for old clapped out Land Rovers, because that would be impressive. So let me get lined up here with the trenches and see what happens as soon as we start articulating. We've taken our other P38 Range Rover, because we're actually selling this one. We've taken our other P38 up these trenches, and it did fine. And of course, as we go up and roll over the snow, we'll dig through to the dirt underneath, but even the dirt underneath is gonna be saturated with water, very muddy, and it gets really slick down here. But so far we're progressing. These trenches get steeper the higher up you go. It's a little hard to have complete controllability here, because we're kind of going wherever gravity pushes us. I'll roll back just a little bit, and I'm taking this slow intentionally because I want to test the vehicle's capability more than speed. As Tommy said, if you carry enough speed, you could get a Mustang up this. So it's more a question of what can the vehicle do by taking it slowly. And we're almost to the top. If we can get up these last holes, then we'll be home free. Come on. We're sliding a little bit out of the trenches. Let me roll back, try and bump it forward, and see if I can get us out of here. Yeah, we're not really in the trenches anymore. We're kind of sliding all over the place. But it's climbing, digging, sending power where it needs to go. Look, is this a very serious test of an old Land Rover? No. Is this a very serious video period? Not really. The goal was to be driving a Jeep, and here we are in a Land Rover, but we got through it. I had some fun in the snow. Now I think we rally around a little bit and call it a good day at the office. This is obviously not a very serious video, and I still want to get out in the snow and see how our old Willys Jeep performs, because I really think it's got the potential to also be a lot of fun in these conditions. But if nothing else, I'm pretty happy that our old P38 Range Rover came through and saved the day a little bit to at least let me have some fun in these winter conditions. And for 1,500 bucks, this old Range Rover is pretty awesome. We are selling it because we have another, now better P38, so we don't need two of them. But I will be a little sad to see this one go, because it's a blast. So that's all for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you've seen a similar issue on the carburetor that's on our old Willys Jeep, if you're into those, then drop us a comment below, because we'll have to get that fixed real soon on a day when we have a little bit more time to tackle it. Today's just not that day, but it'll be back up and running very soon, and hopefully we get another snowstorm and we can see how it does.